We're making sauerkraut today. It's dirt cheap, so easy. 2 ingredients, that's it. What is sauerkraut? It's just fermented cabbage. I'm gonna tell you really quickly why you need this in your life. It's tasty, and it's also really important to have good probiotics that can support the trillions of microorganisms we have in our guts. If you don't know about your gut microbiome, Google it. It's important. It is literally the thing that changes everything. Your immune system, your brain health, your heart health, your skin. The list goes on, and this is the key. Sauerkraut. Yes, you can buy it in the store, but be careful. You want to make sure you buy the refrigerated stuff, not the stuff that's just out on the shelf. That doesn't have the active cultures that you need. I'm going to teach you how to do it right now. Let's get started. First, we need our cabbage. I'm using purple cabbage, aka red cabbage, although it's actually technically purple. You could use green cabbage. That would work just fine. I like the purple cabbage because it has more nutrients. Make sure you wash and dry this well. The other ingredient that we're going to use is salt. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off a top layer and save it. We're going to use this later on. Now I'm going to core the cabbage, then I'm going to cut it in half and finally shred it. Usually I cut all these shreds in half. All right, now this is the hardest part, but it's actually not hard at all. It's just intimidating because you've never done it before. You do need a scale, sorry. It just works way better this way. So we're gonna take our bowl, pop it on the scale, and we're gonna zero it out so that we cancel the weight of our bowl. Then we're gonna pile all of our cabbage in. And now we will get its weight in grams minus the bowl. This cabbage weighs 629 grams. So all you do is you take the weight of your cabbage and multiply that by 0.025 or 2.5% because we want a 2.5% salt brine. My cabbage weighs 629 grams. So 629 times 0.025 is 15.725 grams. We're gonna round that up to 16 grams. So we're gonna put 16 grams of salt into our cabbage. I just zeroed my scale again, so I will put in salt until it says 16 grams. And then you're gonna knead this and get the salt to release all of the water from this cabbage. It'll take maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You can leave it occasionally to let the salt just sit there and do some of the work on its own, but it will release a bunch of water, and that is what we're gonna need to submerge our cabbage in once we put it in the mason jar. I try to buy the smallest cabbage possible at the grocery store because it usually fits perfectly inside a quart-sized jar if you wanna make that amount. Then you're gonna push this down as far as you can. I use the little stick that comes with my blender. That's not what it's called, but I'm blanking right now on the name. Use whatever you got in your kitchen. You're trying to create an anaerobic environment, which means you don't want air getting to this cabbage. So you don't want little pieces sticking up. You want everything submerged. You'll be surprised at how much fits in here. This is where that piece of cabbage that you saved comes in. We're gonna pop this on the top so we don't have any pieces of cabbage float up. Then we're gonna put on a glass weight to make sure absolutely everything stays fully submerged. Now I've got everything, including the top layer of cabbage, fully submerged under the water. I'm using a glass weight that I bought. You can experiment with other things if you don't have a glass weight, but I will just caution you to say that putting like plastic bags filled with water in there, if you've got plastic in an acidic environment, maybe not the best idea. Some people use rocks. What's on your rock that could break down into the brine? I mean, just think about those things. Last thing, you're gonna put a lid on it. I have a special fermentation lid that has a little hole that doesn't let air in, but it lets the carbon dioxide escape as it ferments. So I'm using that. If you don't have something like this and just want to use a regular lid, you're gonna have to make sure to burp your sauerkraut about every day or so that you can release the carbon dioxide. You don't have a bunch of pressure buildup inside your jar. There are other gadgets like airlocks and things, but these are just lower profile and I feel like they work great. Now you're gonna let your sauerkraut just hang out like this and ferment for several weeks. The duration depends on your tastes, how sour you like it. You wanna make sure that there are some active bubbles and that there is a pleasant sour smell. Then you know it has actually fermented. I would say go 3-4 weeks, taste it as you go to see when you want to pull this and start eating it. So yeah, the longer you let it go, the more probiotics it'll have, the more tangy it will be, the more sour it will be. The temperature in your house will determine how quickly things ferment. So if you have a house that's in the 60s, it's gonna take a little longer than if your house is in the 70s. Once you're ready to eat this stuff, it lasts for months and months in the fridge. Speaking of the fridge, I just pulled out my last batch so you can see how this is gonna look once it's been fermented. It's super tasty and adds such an awesome tang to my dishes. I try to eat a serving of this every day, if not something else fermented. We just don't have enough probiotics in our guts anymore because we're eating tons of nutritionless, ultra-processed foods and we're not getting the good stuff in. Get your sauerkraut going. It's even more healthy than regular cabbage because the fermenting makes all the nutrients super bioavailable, which means our bodies can use them really well, plus of course the probiotics. And if I haven't said enough about probiotics, check out my yogurt video. I will have that pop up at the end of this video because that is also a great source of probiotics, which, as you now know, your gut needs. On that note, eat real food. I'll see you next time.